Hey, welcome to Down the Road. We've been away for a little bit, as is the norm with Beck. You know what? They provide a lot of different services, a lot of different games, and a lot of things are available to you, all with the word local involved with them. So it's really kind of cool that we give you a little flavor of everything. Today, we're going to try to do that as well. Josh Askvig is going to join us from the AARP. Also, we're going to get a chance to visit with Tara Brandner. Tara is with, she's a nurse practitioner and founder of Everlasting Hope, which deals with, some of women's health issues. But first, Representative Jason Dockter is going to join us. He's a state House member from District 7. Representative Dockter, good to have you on Down the Road.
Thanks for having me on, Joel.
You know, you're no rookie to this. You've been in the legislature for how long now?
This is my 5th session since 2013.
It's a long time. It's a long time. Good for you. Representative, one of the reasons that we asked you to come on clearly is because of your bill introduced to legalize the use of recreational marijuana. Why did you do it? Why did you put the bill in?
Well, Joel, after I saw what happened in the state of South Dakota and Montana, I thought, well, let's try something different in government. Let's be proactive instead of reactive. And I don't want marijuana to be in our Constitution. I don't want to initiate measure from outside resources and people telling us what to do as far as with this issue. So I thought if we can put into legislation, have tight restrictions, but still give the people the opportunity if they want to do adult use with marijuana, that they'll have the ability, but do it on our terms.
Because of South Dakota being the example and the catalyst for what you knew might have happened in North Dakota, did you take a hard look at the fact that this passed a while in South Dakota, the governor and others are still opposing it and people still aren't doing it?
Yeah, that's always, they're trying to do maneuvers through the court system and everything. But as you know, we passed medical marijuana in North Dakota. We had some issues too, but ultimately it took a long time, but we actually got a program for medical marijuana. So, the people, when they vote these initiative measures and they pass, more than likely you're going to have to work with it. So I thought putting legislation is much easier than going through what South Dakota now. They're going through several issues with their initiated measure that got passed.
So what are you doing with the bill? What does the bill specifically do?
The bill specifically only allows people to buy adult use marijuana at the current dispensaries that are currently for the state for medical, and the product only can come from the 2 manufacturing facilities that are in the state of North Dakota. The bill does give leeway by the health department to add additional dispensaries and manufacturing if the use and the people want more and the demand, there is room for them to expand.
Now, Representative, you've always been what I would term as a strict capitalist. If you're going to open it up, why limit it? Why, you take somebody in the rural area, say you live in rural Hettinger County, you might have to go a long way to get to a dispensary to get the product you're looking for. I mean, why not just open it up?
Joel, it's a great question. And I am a big free market capitalist, but I felt with the amount of money that the current dispensaries had to pay to get into the system, I felt for this first 2 years that they can recoup some of their costs and just to see how the program before we start expanding it out. Because there are already people talking about this could be economic development in places like Hakinson, where you're from, Matador, that area, all the way to Bowman to, Watford City, wherever people want it. But I thought for this first 2 years, till we get it off the ground, that we would limit just to the current dispensaries.
Now, there's different grades of marijuana. The some are stronger, some are weaker. Did you put that in the bill? Is there anything specific in regards to what type of marijuana people can use recreationally?
It is. It's basically the same template that we use for medical. And that's how they're going to the different kinds. And the labs will be doing the same tests and everything else to make sure. But yeah, we want it to kind of be consistent and the same. And again, I'll go on record, and like I said on the House floor, I've never smoked marijuana. I don't know anything about it. I didn't even know what 420 meant until someone asked me, hey, your bill's 1420. That was pretty clever. I said, I have no idea. So yeah, so what's put in is just it's just the same as it currently for medical that's allowed in the state.
Okay, now I got to know what's 1420 because I don't know either.
1420 was the bill, but 420 is the universal number for people that smoke marijuana.
Oh.
On April 20th of every year, they smoke marijuana. I think it's Bob Marley and whoever that group. Okay. So that's a universal number. I had no idea. So I think someone in legislative council must have knew that, because lo and behold, the bill became 1420 when it was introduced.
I can tell you this, as somebody else who has never smoked marijuana, I can tell you this, they're not, the people that I know that do, they're not going to wait till 420.
No, it's 5 o'clock somewhere.
Yeah, exactly. Representative, when you look at the overall effect of this bill, do you believe that marijuana is a gateway drug?
Joel, I honestly, I don't. You look at some of these other drugs, you have cocaine, heroin, and meth, especially, and then the effects that they do. You never hear an incident would happen is because they were under the influence of marijuana. But you hear when under meth and some of these other hard drugs, and alcohol, for instance. I give that example. I mean, if you want to talk about something that affects lives, just look at DUIs. We put laws in place to lower the legal limit. The average is 0.167. We moved the limit down to 0.08. People are still going to do this. And if you want to talk about greater effects on society, let's look at alcohol.
Well, there's no question about that. Every study has shown it. There's another factor that I think played out in South Dakota that would play out in North Dakota, which is why I think you're right to be so proactive on this, because I think it would pass in North Dakota if it found its way on the ballot, which was really the problem last time. And that is the fact that you and I are not the norm. We are nowhere near the norm. In fact, if each one of us rounded up 20 of our friends that we hang out with, I think 18 of them, at the very least, would have smoked pot by now.
That is a fact. Growing up, it was very prevalent, and that was one of the arguments. Well, this will create more of a black market. I mean, all I have to tell everyone out there is that you can't put your head in the sand. It is already there. If you want to get it, you can get it. It's so prevalent. I mean, it's been around for as long as I can remember.
Did you, Representative Dockter, did you limit the amount that a person can buy?
Yes, we limited. You can buy it twice in a month. In a 15-day period, you can buy twice, and I believe it's 1 ounce. I got to make sure. I believe it's 1 ounce. Yeah, that you can buy. And what we did also, Joel, in the bill, it's similar to what we do with pharmacies as far as like oxycodone. There's a database center, so they can't keep jumping around to different dispensaries. Their name will get flagged in the system, so they can't go around to other parts of the state to keep collecting more marijuana.
So, Representative, did you look at what other states who have just opened it up have done? Did you look at the state of Washington, by example, or the state of Colorado that said, look, let's just get over it. People are smoking pot. If you want to smoke pot, go smoke pot.
Yes, we did. We looked at as far as with this bill and also the tax bill, but I also, political reality, know the state of North Dakota. And so I felt we have to do something, but we have to have it very restrictive in order for it to get passed. And as you know, once it gets into statute, then you look at it and what things are working, what things aren't working. Then you come back the next session, you tweak it, and you keep building on the law that you created. And so I was just trying to take baby steps. I wasn't going to go all in, because most of the time when you try to go all in, it just blows up and you don't have anything.
So, Representative, what type of pushback have you gotten? Because the chamber that you serve in is very conservative. I think we both acknowledge that. And it has some people that have what they would define as strict morals. You must have gotten some significant pushback on this legislation.
Well, Joel, it was an amazing day yesterday in the House We passed the marijuana bills. We passed all the gaming bills. It was just wide open yesterday. But what I did find out, the pushback, the same people that are against any gaming bills, they're against marijuana. It's the same segment of our caucus. And when I was doing a nose count, I was going back to my lobbyist days. I had between 52 and 56, and I actually got the high number of 56. And when I look back at the roster, I was surprised. Some that I thought I had did not vote for, and other ones I didn't think had a chance voted for it. And I had a couple conversations with some people, and the number one thing is we do not want it initiated measure. We do not want it in the Constitution, and that's why they voted for it. I would say out of the 56, I would say more than 50 probably they don't smoke and they don't believe in it, but they believe in doing this is the best way to do it without allowing it to go to initiated measure. And I hope people in North Dakota understand that.
Okay, I got to ask you this, because I'm asking myself the same question. So, Jason, you knew I was probably going to ask you this. You know, you say you haven't smoked pot. I haven't smoked pot. I have no reason to doubt you. In fact, I know that you haven't smoked pot, knowing you. Would you try it now? If it's legal, would you give it a go?
That is a great question. You know, I would have to think about, because they're already calling me Dr. Dope in the house. That's my nickname. You know, more than likely, I probably would just one time just to see what it is. But again, I'm against it. But if it becomes legal, then I would, you know, probably more than likely just try it one time. But it'd be, I wouldn't be doing it on a regular basis.
I don't doubt that, but I will tell you this: you gave the exact same answer. I will. I would. I will. I'll try it. It's legal now, and quite frankly, it's going to be more prevalent. And there's a lot of people in my life that are wondering why the heck I haven't by now. And so it probably was because it was illegal. And when I shave in the morning, I'm no different than when you shave in the morning. We see a governor or we see a senator. So I wanted to be able to answer the way I answered. But, you know, I think I would try it. Representative, thank you. Thanks for coming on. I think you were very proactive. I think you're right about South Dakota, North Dakota. So appreciate you coming down the road with us.
Thank you.
You bet. When we come back, we'll talk about, you know, infertility. We'll talk about a disease that impacts 1 in 6 women and how it's not covered by health insurance as we go down the road.
Respect, innovation, trust, and excellence. These core values can be seen in every building built by Straightway Construction. In the community for over 15 years, Straightway Construction has become the premier construction company for commercial projects. From dirt to design and framing to finish, Straightway Construction is your #1 choice. You won't have to look far to find a project that has that Straightway touch. Call them today or go online to straightwayconstruction.com and let them make your vision a reality. Did you know the Foundation for Rural Service awards scholarships for rural students? The scholarships range from $2,500 to $7,000. Go to www.frs.org for information and applications.
Hi, I'm Dennis Haugen, along with my sons Andy and Mike, and we're showing our support for wind energy in North Dakota.
Wind energy has provided farmers like us with a steady stream of income that's not tied to the weather like crops and cattle are.
Another bonus is that wind farm owners are required to maintain the roads leading up to the turbines. Because of that, oftentimes these roads are the best in the county. Wind energy is good for landowners, it's good for the land, it's good for our economy, and it's good for North Dakota.
There's nothing more important than family. And at Prairie Rose Family Dentists, we get it. That's why we have more locations, more dentists, specialists, extended hours, pediatric clinics, and even emergency appointments, so you can always be seen. Book your appointment today at prairierosedentist.com. Prairie Rose Family Dentists. We are family.
40 years ago, Aero Service Team started with one truck and lots of hard work. Times may have changed, but the hard work that we put in to get your lives back in order after fire, water, and disaster hasn't.
Over the years, we've seen so many families lose their belongings due to water and fire damage. Restoring homes back to the original state has made every hour of hard work well worth it.
Thank you for trusting our family with yours.
When disaster strikes, you only have to make one call. Aero Service Team does it all.
Pub 21, your one stop for fun, drinks, and food. Our spacious facility provides COVID-safe fun for you and all your friends. With nightly bingo and specials, you can be sure there's something to do for everyone. If you're staying in for the night, we've got you covered just across the way with Pub 21 Liquor. We have a wide variety of options, from wine to whiskey and everything in between. Stop in today at 1014 South 12th Street in Bismarck to see what all the buzz is about. You won't be disappointed.
Welcome back to Down the Road. If you're a frequent viewer of this show, you know that we're not afraid to tackle some tough issues and talk about some issues that, affect people. This one does. The issue we're about to talk about is infertility, and it is a disease that impacts 1 in 6 women. I want to repeat that, 1 in 6 women. And here's the real hook that we want to talk about, which is, in my opinion, absolutely ridiculous, is it's not covered by health insurance. Tara Brandner is a nurse practitioner, and she is founder of Everlasting Hope, and we're going to bring her in. Tara, good to have you coming down the road with us.
Thanks for having me.
All right, I got to know, Everlasting Hope. Tell people what that stands for, what it is.
Yes, Everlasting Hope came from my own personal journey with my husband through infertility. It's the first and only infertility nonprofit in the state of North Dakota, and as of this last July, South Dakota. We support all patients no matter what phase of infertility or treatment they are going through. If you have troubles trying to conceive and start your family, we are here for you. In addition, we raise public awareness on what infertility is and try to remove some of those stigmas and barriers that are encountered when you have this diagnosis, one of them being access to insurance coverage.
So did you pattern this after, and I know you've got legislation, and we'll make sure people know exactly how that legislation is going, but did you pattern that legislation after other states?
19 states to be exact, and 6 of them since 2018 have passed this exact same legislation. So in addition to infertility care for all the diagnoses that goes along with that, it's for fertility preservation. So you have cancer patients who are going through cancer, that's 90% of it. There's some other like medications that can cause impair your reproductive system, so it covers that too. But to preserve that right before they start chemo-oncology. So it covers these patients too.
As I pointed out, she's a nurse practitioner, so she knows. She knows exactly what she's talking about, and as the father of a nurse practitioner who's pretty proud of her, I understand how you get right there, and you're in a room with somebody struggling with this issue. How hard is that? How hard is it to be in a clinical setting or in an examination room and the person is just struggling to do what many others can do, which is to have a family?
It's hard because we forget about the mental health impact that this disease carries too. So in addition to being like, oh, sorry, you have no insurance coverage, what are we going to do? You have the mental health, because we know 61% of women don't share this diagnosis with their friends and family, and it impacts males too. So the disease actually is 1/3 male, 1/3 female, 1/3 both, or unexplained. So you have this dynamic that goes on in that exam room of which direction we're going to send you. What can we do? Do you have money? Do you have a savings account? Do you want to refinance your home? Do you want to go in credit card debt? Do you want to go talk to your banker? I mean, there's so many conversations that go on in addition to, oh, by the way, you have this disease. It's what can we do based on your bank account and your financial impact and your insurance benefits. So no other disease do I encounter in my exam room that has that impact of cost discussion with it.
So how hard is it to get people over that first hurdle? Because, okay, let me give you an example, Tara, what I'm getting at. You know, I got a ton of friends, and by your sheer numbers, some of them have struggled with fertility. So I'm sitting in a fish house this weekend, and I've got about 15 guys in there drinking beer, and one of those guys, or 2 of those guys, or however the numbers break down, 2, okay?
Yep.
Two of those guys are not going to want anybody in that room to know. You know that, I know that. So, because they're going to get a bunch of teasing, which they never should, but they will.
Right.
And so how do you pass legislation when you've got to get over that in the first place? You've got to get individuals like the ones in my fish house to call their legislators and say, hey, I need this. I need this. This is a problem my wife and I are having.
Yep. So one thing we do at Everlasting Hope is walk that individual and those patients through the how-to. We have like a 10-step process we run them through. It simply begins with them sitting down with their partner and saying, hey, what are we comfortable sharing? We want to share 2 sentences, 2 paragraphs, a whole story, tell our family, tell our friends, put it on social media. It's finding that fine line of what they're comfortable sharing and knowing that even if they send that legislator 2 sentences saying, I know somebody impacted by infertility, I am your constituent, please vote to pass on this bill, that's powerful in itself, because once again, you're their constituent. So we know that if they hear from their constituent, it's much more impactful than me, even as the only nonprofit in North Dakota and a nurse practitioner doing it. So it's just knowing that they have a very powerful voice within them. And I think we forget that because people get caught up in, I don't do politics, I don't want to talk about it. We need to do politics right now because we need to get the importance of this issue specifically across the legislators because they still are not getting it, unfortunately.
I'm sitting here, Tara, thinking in my own private life, I instantly thought of 5 couples that have struggled with this. You know, and obviously there's more I know that haven't told me, and they're not going to tell me. But I'm thinking of 5 couples that have been very open and honest about how they're struggling with this. They ended up, looking at adoption, becoming foster parents. They wanted to be a family of more than 2. What's the norm? I shouldn't say norm is a bad way of putting this. I mean, you and your husband have been through this. So that hurdle of getting past and having that opportunity, how hard is that? And I know no one case, no 2 cases are the same, but are we doing better science-wise and medically to just say, look, we maybe can do this?
Yes, absolutely. So science has come a long way, even in 5 years when it comes to reproductive health. And we actually know along those lines that COVID is impacting male sperm in the fertility world. So let's throw COVID now into the whole case of things, that there is now going to be a reproductive impact from healthy men, never had reproductive issues before. Now we're seeing that be an impact on that. So we know that most people I should back up. 3 to 7% are going to need that advanced reproductive technology where you typically are going to hear the words IUI or IVF. That's it, 3 to 7%. Because we know that with oral medications, ultrasound, lab work, least invasive procedures as possible can go further and cheaper, nowadays than before. And along those same lines of advancements in cost, those states that have passed legislation know that there's cost savings attached to states that provide these insurance benefits. There's cost savings because we are doing less risky, less invasive procedures to have a child when we have insurance coverage. So an example might be like higher doses of medication, and now you're having twins or triplets, and putting more embryos in. If you do get to that 3% needing IVF, let's put 2 embryos in because I only got $5,000 to do this one round. Let's do it. I don't care if I have twins because I don't want to come back again. Yeah. So you have these risky procedures happening to try to have a better outcome when you don't have healthcare insurance with this.
Well, let's shock them a little bit. What's the average cost? How much? And I realize some are more, some are less, but what's the average cost?
$20,000.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
And there's no guarantee.
No guarantee. That's like going to buy a boat, we always joke, and you don't know if you're going to walk out of that dealership with the boat. And we know the average North Dakota household income's $41,000. So put that into perspective a little bit too when thinking about it.
Tara, every day you get up and do something as a nurse practitioner, but this is an extra step. If people want to find out about Everlasting Hope, where do they go? What do they do?
RaisingEverlastingHope.org, and you can find us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and of course our website.
All right. Thank you. And people are going to want to know, and you can tell me it's none of my business, but were you and your husband able to have a baby?
We have a 3-year-old toddler running around our house. He's our only chance at having a kid through reproductive health care. So yes, we are fortunate.
Does he behave?
I say, of course he does. My husband will tell you otherwise.
Does he have red hair?
No, he's a brown-haired, brown-eyed.
You can always dye his hair. Just understand that.
Yes, true. Very true.
And blue-colored contacts are cheap. So,
yes.
Tara, thanks for doing this on behalf of all those
you.
families. Thank you so much. I hope
You're
we
welcome.
help getting word out. When we come back, Josh Askvig is going to join us. He is the state director of the AARP. We're going to talk about drug prices. We're going to talk about what seniors are faced with on a daily basis as we head down the road.
Jeez, what a mess. Look at that. There's roof stuff everywhere. It's so embarrassing. Ruins the neighborhood. Come on, humans. Let's get this fixed.
Don't let your roof go to the dogs. Call America's Best Contractors for your free estimate.
Need a new woof?
After checking with the rest, go with the best. America's Best Contractors. 258-2412. Online at americasbestcontractorsincorporated.com.
In southwestern and south central North Dakota, on any given day at any given moment, a Dakota Community Bank and Trust customer is logging in or signing on to do their online or mobile banking. We believe that community banking can blend both the past with down-home customer service in-house and the future with modern banking conveniences and technology for our customers anywhere, like here or here, all while honoring our long-standing tradition of community-first oriented banking here at Dakota Community Bank and Trust.
It's every American's right to bear arms. At Mandan Sporting Goods, we're here to help you support your Second Amendment rights, which reads, a well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. Whether you're looking for a pistol for personal defense or collector gun, we have the staff to help you. We also have the area's largest inventory of ammo and reloading supplies.
Mandan Sporting Goods, the area's local gun and ammo specialists.
Beck Communications is hiring. Beck Communications is seeking qualified candidates for plant technicians in our Wheatland, North Dakota location. Beck Communications is an equal opportunity employer. To view the job details, visit www.beck.coop. To apply, email your cover letter and resume to careers@bechtel.coop. Beck Communications, making connections that matter.
If you're a Beck Fiber customer or the dependent of a Beck Fiber customer, you might qualify for scholarships. Beck awards scholarships to seniors headed to college or to students attending University of Mary. Go to www.beck.coop for eligibility guidelines and applications.
The experienced professionals at Superior Glass provide residential and commercial glass installation and repair services in central and western North Dakota. Superior Glass is your source for stained glass projects, mirrors, windows, touchless, and automated entry solutions. Stop by and see us at 3323 East Broadway in Bismarck or call us at 701-258-5600. Superior Glass, where you get superior service for less. Bye for now.
Did you know the Foundation for Rural Service awards scholarships for rural students? The scholarships range from $2,500 to $7,000. Go to www.frs.org for information and applications.
Good to have you still going down the road with us. We've hit a lot of issues today, a lot of tough issues we've had an opportunity to talk about. Well, and this just doesn't affect the elderly. I definitely qualify as someone that can utilize the services of the AARP. But you know what? It affects my daughters in the fact that it does affect me. So let's keep that in mind. Josh Askvig is our guest. He's the state director of the AARP. Josh, good to have you coming down the road with us.
Hey, thanks for having me on, Joel. I really appreciate you taking some time to talk about the high cost of prescription drugs and some of the work that we and others are doing in the legislature.
And that's where it's at. If you talk to anyone as a former politician, a recovering politician, every constituent I had that was elderly, one of the biggest concerns they had was the high price of prescription drugs. And I'm not sure we ever got our arms around it in my days. Where do we sit today?
Well, Joel, I think it's an important thing. And, you know, I've been state director for about 5 years now. And when I became state director, we started doing some listening sessions in communities around North Dakota. And whether we were doing a listening session or doing an event, whether it was on Social Security, Medicare, healthy living, any topic, we couldn't go to an event without somebody coming up to us and saying, have you heard or seen what's happening with prescription drug costs right now? And so last year we went out and did some surveying of AARP members in North Dakota, voters 45 plus in North Dakota, and got some really good data on what's happening in North Dakota related to prescription drug prices. And so it'd probably be helpful for your viewers to know a couple of background things. The average older American right now takes 4.5 prescription drugs on a chronic basis. And the average annual cost of prescription drug treatment for those individuals increased 57.8% between 2012 and 2017. During that same time, annual incomes only increased about 6.7%. But as you said, it's not just Medicare beneficiaries. It's not just older North Dakotans. It impacts all North Dakotans. I know you've talked on your radio show with some family members who have individuals and kids with diabetes that are struggling to afford prescription drug costs. And we hear that certainly in North Dakota. So when we did our survey of folks, we found that in North Dakota's 45 plus voters in North Dakota, older adults, 1 in 4 didn't fill a prescription in the last 2 years, prescription they were prescribed in the last 2 years. Of those who didn't fill that prescription, 44% said they didn't fill it because of cost, because the cost was prohibitive for them to fill that drug. And further, 65% of them said they were at least somewhat concerned about being able to afford prescription drugs in the future. And so it's pretty clear we have an issue, and we need to do something. And that while the federal government certainly has a role, and we've worked on this issue at the federal government, that state governments can take action too. And one of the things we know, and you probably remember from former Senator Dorgan's days and whatnot, that we have this long border with Canada. And if you know anything about Canadian drug prices versus drug prices in the United States, they're usually between 20 and 40% of what you would pay for the same prescription drug in North Dakota many times. And they have the same, if not more stringent safety standards than we do as well. And so we also asked the question of, would folks support importation from safe importation from actually Canada and Europe? And overwhelmingly, 80% said they would. And so we started talking to state legislators and started saying, hey, you know, this is what we're hearing from constituents and from older North Dakotans. This is an issue of concern that keeps coming up. And so what are some solutions? And there were a package of 4 bills that were introduced this session that we had some hand in doing. One was around prescription drug price transparency, which would essentially say if a prescription goes up more than 10% in a year or 40% over 5 years, they have to file a report with the North Dakota State Board of Pharmacy and/or Insurance Department and shed some light on what's happening with prescription drug prices. And then I think the other 2 of the 4 that I think are really important to focus on are Senate Bill 2212. And that bill, as it started out, would have had North Dakota set up its own wholesale prescription drug importation program, or essentially set up a program so prescription drug wholesalers could contract with a Canadian pharmacy, ensure safety standards are met, and bring in prescription drug prices at a reduced rate. That bill has since been amended because North Dakota is a pretty small market when you think about the overall scheme of prescription drugs and things in the country. And so it's been amended to say we could team up with other states that are doing this. There are 8 other states in the country that currently have authorized their state health departments or human services departments to do this. Most notably probably is Florida is farthest along as part of it. And then the last one is Senate Bill 2170. We heard a lot of concern from legislators and other folks about safety, and we think you can safely do a wholesale importation program. But if that was the issue, then let's just talk about price importation, and let's talk about just importing the price, because that's really what it comes down to, is doing that. And so there was Senate Bill 2170, which, as it was originally written, would have set an upper payment limit or an upper limit, the same as you do in state Medicaid today and other services, and applied it to prescription drugs using Canadian reference pricing or using the upper payment limit prices that were set in Canada. And that bill was amended to now say that the insurance commissioner could negotiate those prices for PERS. They did limit it to PERS for 2 years and do some negotiation. All in all, the bills are all have passed their original chamber. They're in good shape. And I should just reference, since I said there were 4, the 4th one got turned into a study, and so it would study this issue going forward in the interim.
So, Josh, when you look at this, it's been around. I mean, the problem has been around. You mentioned Canada and basing things off Canadian prices. Big Pharma is one of the toughest lobbyists out there. I mean, they are. I served in that chamber for 14 years, and so I know that when they come, they wield a big stick. How are you getting around that?
Well, I think a couple of ways, Joel. We've had members tell their story. My friend Roger, who lives in Mandan, North Dakota, talks about he's a retired state employee. When he retired, found out he had leukemia. When he started his treatment, he was in recovery, and they found a drug that when he was on the state employee retirement system, state health insurance system, he paid $5 a month. When he had to switch off of that, it jumped up to almost $9,000 a month with insurance. Found it, thankfully, from a Canadian pharmacy for $800 out of pocket, no insurance, or maybe it was $900 out of pocket, no insurance. So it's folks like Roger who've been telling their stories and continuing to share the stories so that when pharma, and I will tell you, yes, pharma is definitely ever present. They've certainly been pushing back hard against all of these bills, unfortunately. And so we've been fighting back by raising up stories like Rogers, or there's my friend Ellen, who's told the story about her sister and how she struggles sometimes from month to month, or, you can go across the spectrum of North Dakota, and it has been those individuals telling their stories that has really helped us push back against that.
I can't imagine the sticker shock that Roger must have had. That is absolutely unbelievable. Josh, if people want to help you, because there's a lot of people watching this show right now that just want to help, what do you recommend they do? How can they help you?
Well, first of all, Joel, I appreciate getting the opportunity to tell folks what we're doing and how to do it. And the easiest place is to go to aarp.org/ND. Again, that's aarp.org/ND. Once you get there, you'll see a story on our homepage that talks about the work they're doing. They can click through there and they'll be able to connect with us. We'll be happy to put them in touch with their legislators. The second thing is tell their story. Tell their story to their neighbors and friends and encourage them to speak out and speak up, because as you know, and as a former and as a recovering politician myself at the local level, it is those stories and those constituents speaking out. It does have an impact. I know people often get disenchanted with that, but when you hear those stories, you can't help but start to think we got to do something. And the fact that we've gotten this far in the first half is a big push, and now we have to make an even bigger push in the second half.
You know what? Keep fighting for them. I mean that, Josh. They don't have a lot of people walking the hallways in Bismarck, and do it on a federal level too. I know your organization isn't afraid to do that, because healthcare is going to be brought up a lot in the next couple of years. Josh, always good to have you with us. Let's do it again sometime, okay?
Anytime, Joel. Appreciate the opportunity.
He's good at what he does, ladies and gentlemen. When we come back, I want to get a chance to visit with you about a couple of things. I want to talk about health insurance. Again, I want to talk about the legislature's health insurance. You just heard the difference between Roger, what his prices were as a state employee versus what his prices were when he left. Well, understand this. Legislators get health insurance as though they're full-time employees. Let's talk about it when we come back as we head down the road.
Howdy, folks. It's a County Cafe. I reckon it's time you're due for a hearty meal. So saddle up for the day with one of our Hay-Boston breakfast homemade soups. Fill your grill at a salad bar. Sink your teeth into our famous County Line burger and barbecue ribs. Top it off with spool-rattling pie with a cum roll that's sure to put a smile on even the toughest outlaws. Yeah. Shake the dirt off the boots each night and warm up with the game. Tell them about it, Stacy.
I can't wait to see you at the county line.
Since opening in Hebron in 1940, Dakota Community Bank and Trust has been your hometown bank. Our mission has been to provide modern banking convenience with old-fashioned hometown service. We've grown with the communities we serve through year-round events, countless sponsorships, and nearly 7,000 hours of volunteering each year. Learn more about our 80-year history at dakotacommunitybank.com.
Respect, innovation, trust, and excellence. These core values can be seen in every building built by Straightway Construction. In the community for over 15 years, Straightway Construction has become the premier construction company for commercial projects. From dirt to design and framing to finish, Straightway Construction is your #1 choice. You won't have to look far to find a project that has that Straightway touch. Call them today or go online to straightwayconstruction.com and let them make your vision a reality.
Jeez, what a mess. Look at that. There's roof stuff everywhere. It's so embarrassing. Ruins the neighborhood. Come on, humans. Let's get this fixed.
Don't let your roof go to the dogs. Call America's Best Contractors for your free estimate.
Need a new woof?
After checking with the rest, go with the best. America's Best Contractors. 258-2412. Online at americasbestcontractorsincorporated.com.
Did you know the Foundation for Rural Service awards scholarships for rural students? The scholarships range from $2,500 to $7,000. Go to www.frs.org for information and applications. If you're a Beck Fiber customer or the dependent of a Beck Fiber customer, you might qualify for scholarships. Beck awards scholarships to seniors headed to college or to students attending University of Mary. Go to www.beck.coop for eligibility guidelines and applications.
Welcome back. Beck News keeps their word. There's $1,000 that went out, and they went out in fast cash, and somebody got them. Take a look at this.
Beck News Fast Cash. Beck News Fast Cash for $1,000. Well, I'm Mark Tucson, the News Operations Manager at Beck News, and we have a huge winner of the Beck News Fast Cash, and that is our friend Annie. Congratulations.
Thank you.
We're so happy to have you as one of our wonderful viewers, and of course, we're even happier to be able to give you this $1,000. Did you see that? Isn't that awesome?
So yay!
And what's your name? What's your name? Oh, you're so shy now? How about, what's your name?
Ruby.
Ruby, it's so glad to have you here at Beck News. And you know what? How do you feel about your mom winning that $1,000?
Excited.
She's going to put it in your bank account, I think, for college.
Money.
Maybe? No? Okay. No. All right. Well, I know that it can go to all kinds of great things. And you know what? We're so happy to have you and your mom and your whole family part of our family here at Beck News. So thanks for listening and watching, and we're so happy to have you as part of the show.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Way to go, Annie. Way to go, Ruby, and way to go, Bashful. Although he wasn't that bashful, was he? I mean, did you see those hands up? I don't think he practiced either. I think that's just a sign of how much they love Beck News and how much they're going to dig having that $1,000. That's cool. That is really cool. What a great young family, and what a great place for that money to go to. I want to thank them. I want to thank them for watching Beck News. A couple of things going on in the world out there. We're going to talk about health insurance, and we're going to talk about legislators. There was an insulin bill. Insulin costs have gone just through the roof. They've always been bad, but they are really, really bad now. If you're diabetic, you have no choice. I mean, you have to take insulin. And so here you sit. Here you sit with a bill that you can't manage yourself. Now, what does that mean? That means that somebody needs to advocate for you. Somebody needs to take a look at what's happening, whether it's fair, what other states are doing, and what your state can do. There was a bill put into the legislature, and it was a bipartisan bill. It originated with Tim Mathern out of Fargo, and Dick Deaver out of Bismarck grabbed it, held it, and said, you bet, let's make a run at this. Obviously, Dick is from the majority party, and Tim is from the minority party, which is always a good recipe for getting good legislation through. Good legislation like this. Danelle Johnson is somebody who's been on my radio show. She has walked the halls of the Capitol. She has pushed for this legislation, and the Senate gutted it. That's right. They completely gutted it. In fact, they turned it into a 2-year study, which, understand what that happens when they turn it into a study. That doesn't mean they're going to study it. All those proposed studies go into a hopper, and they pick them out, and they say, all right, this one, that one, this one, that one. So there was no guarantee it would have been studied at all. But when it got to the Senate floor as amended and turned into a study, you know what happened? They just killed it. They just killed it. And here's one of the things that I think is going on. And you heard it in our previous segment with Josh Askvig when he was talking about Roger and how Roger was a state employee. And a prescription that he had cost him $8 a month and now cost him $9,000 a month, or $8,000. I don't remember the exact amount. I just remember the word thousand was brought up. And it wasn't a small number in the thousands either. So here you sit, right? The state employees get a good health care benefit. And you know why they should? They should because of this. In comparison to other states, we don't pay ours a lot. We don't. We should pay them more, in my personal opinion, but we don't pay them a lot. In fact, the governor's budget this time called for a 0-0, meaning 0% increase the first year, 0% increase the next year. So over the next, over the biennium, really what the state employees would be looking at is no raise whatsoever. So how do we sell them on that? How do we keep the guy in the snowplow? How do we keep the woman or man working in regards to public health? I mean, pick a state employee in their profession that you want. I don't care. I do know this, that they all work hard and they're all needed. Well, how you keep them is you go about telling them that we've got the health plan for you, right? Well, you know what? The legislature likes that health plan. And no one is going to convince me that the state legislature is a full-time position. If it was a full-time position, many of them couldn't do the other jobs they have, right? They're doing this on a part-time basis. I did it on a part-time basis. And understand this. When you go to the legislature, you're paid a sum every day. And that sum equates to a salary of over $50,000 a year. And you chose to run. You chose to run. So here you are getting paid. Also, you get paid for your lodging, and you get paid so much per month. When you pull the pin and you leave, you go to an interim study every now and then, the very studies we were talking about. And those studies go to certain committees. And when that committee meets, what's going to happen? Well, when that committee meets, you're going to get paid as a legislator to go to it. And get this, and this happens sometimes. If you get your work done in the morning at those meetings, you only get paid half a check. And so I've seen these meetings get shut down, go ahead and eat at 11:30, and then brought back in at 1. So you know what? If you made it into the afternoon, you get a full day's check. It's a game, ladies and gentlemen. It's a game. So if that's the way they operate, if that's who they are and what they are, right? And I'm just going to say this. It wasn't my party. It wasn't the Democrats that voted against the insulin bill. In fact, they voted to support it. Many of them wanted to sponsor it, and they didn't want to see it gutted and turned into a study. So put the blame where the blame lies. This is Republican. This is Big Pharma. This is individuals that wanted to make sure that big-time lobbyists were happy and the very public they serve wasn't. Because you know what? They'll never know. It wasn't us. It was the pharmaceutical companies, right? It wasn't us. There's nothing we could do about this. Bull. There was something they could do about it. So now those same legislators made sure in that part-time position that they get full-time health care. That's right. They get state-run, state-owned health care. Better health care coverage than you got. I will guarantee you that. You just heard how Roger's doing. You know, he's doing okay, right? Or was, till he got off it. Now explain to me why. I'm struggling with this. I never took it when I was in the legislature. I didn't. I had an okay plan with my workplace. We worked out payments. We worked out how we were going to do that in my absence. And, you know, here's the thing. I never took it. So I'm not being a hypocrite when it comes to this. I'm trying to figure out why legislators get it. Why should they get it? You know, is this something that we should put out there as an initiated measure that says you legislators that don't care enough about the public you serve to deal with the insulin example, and there's others, we just heard of some by the AARP. If you don't care about the very people you serve, then why in the world should we care about you when it comes to your health care? I mean, so the question is this. If somebody put a petition in front of you and they said, sign it, and this petition takes away health care for legislators, for part-time employees, because the state has a lot of part-time employees other than legislators, and they don't get full-time health insurance. They don't. So if somebody put that petition in front of you, would you sign it? Would you sign it? And most importantly, would you vote for it? Something to think about, isn't it? When we come back as we head down the road, I'm going to have some closing comments for you. We're going to talk about some of the ridiculous things that have happened in the legislature this week. Stick around. More coming your way.
There's nothing more important than family. And at Prairie Rose Family Dentists, we get it. That's why we have more locations, more dentists, specialists, extended hours, pediatric clinics, and even emergency appointments, so you can always be seen. Book your appointment today at prairierosedentist.com. Prairie Rose Family Dentists. We are family.
Deciding how to promote your business can be hard. Visit the professionals at Dakota Promotions and Printing and let them help you through your struggle. Dakota Promotions provides promotional items and apparel, from corporate gifts to team shirts and everything in between. With quick turnaround times and friendly service, they are your best choice. And best yet, you're shopping local. Visit them online at dakotapromo.com or stop in their showroom at 320 West Main in Mandan. Dakota Promotions, delivering promotions just for you.
Hi, I'm Dennis Haugen, along with my sons Andy and Mike, and we're showing our support for wind energy in North Dakota.
Wind energy has provided farmers like us with a steady stream of income that's not tied to the weather like crops and cattle are.
Another bonus is that wind farm owners are required to maintain the roads leading up to the turbines. Because of that, oftentimes these roads are the best in the county. Wind energy is good for landowners, it's good for the land, it's good for our economy, and it's good for North Dakota.
40 years ago, Aero Service Team started with one truck and lots of hard work.
Times may have changed, but the hard work that we put in to get your lives back in order after fire, water, and disaster hasn't.
Over the years, we've seen so many families lose their belongings due to water and fire damage. Restoring homes back to the original state has made every hour of hard work well worth it.
Thank you for trusting our family with yours.
When disaster strikes, you only have to make one call. Aero Service Team does it all.
It's every American's right to bear arms. At Mandan Sporting Goods, we're here to help you support your Second Amendment rights, which reads, a well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. Whether you're looking for a pistol for personal defense or collector gun, we have the staff to help you. We also have the area's largest inventory of ammo and reloading supplies.
Mandan Sporting Goods, the area's local gun and ammo specialists.
Now is the best time to plan for your 2021 farm equipment needs. North Dakota-based Summers Manufacturing is currently offering early order savings. Take advantage of big savings on North America's broadest tillage line, including the Super Kohler Samurai and the innovative BRT Renegade, as well as the best built, best backed land rollers in the industry. Talk to your Summers dealer today or go to summersmfg.com to learn more about early order savings available on all Summers equipment.
Well, I know I'm about to tick off a lot of you because, you know, quite frankly, you voted these individuals in. But I'm proud of my party. I'm proud of the Dem NPL party in North Dakota because they didn't take part in any of the things I'm about to tell you about. The repeal of the ERA. What trouble were they looking for? Why? Why repeal the ERA? I mean, I don't get it. The people of North Dakota voted it in. If you hate the Equal Rights Amendment so bad, you know, don't worry. It didn't pass on a national scale. We didn't get enough states to make it happen. It's just vicious. It's just vicious. I'm going to name another one. You know what? We'll sit there and have a moment of silence over a radio talk show host, but we don't have a moment of silence over 500,000 people have died of COVID. Well over 1,000 of them are North Dakotans that have died of COVID. I know a number of them, and they'd be here if it wasn't for COVID. Did you see a moment of silence for them? I didn't. I didn't because you know what? They're not the priority. In fact, there are people in the North Dakota legislature that believe we shouldn't even have to wear masks and shouldn't wear masks. There's a guy walking around from Northwood with a Crown Royal bag on his face. I mean, how proud is Northwood of that? He's walking around with a Crown Royal bag on his face. And the way he changes it is every day there's a little different flavor of Crown Royal. Do you got the apple? Do you got the cinnamon? Do you just got the straight up? I mean, how embarrassing is that? Also, want to just point out that, you know, they hate the Ethics Commission. They do. They hate them. They don't want to be ethical. So what's the best way to deal with the fact that you, the voters, voted in an Ethics Commission? Well, the best way to do it is hope you don't know, but not fund them. Not give them the money that they need to do their job. That's what's going on in Bismarck. That's what's going on in Bismarck. Tomorrow we're going to get a chance to talk about a certain piece of legislation that quite frankly hurts the people most vulnerable. The highest rate of suicide in teenagers. We're going to talk about that. So until then, folks, it's good riding with you.